to order. It's at 5:36, and first we'll start with the agenda review. Does anybody have any comments on the agenda or want to move anything around? It's pretty simple. Our focus tonight is going to be the draft of the town plan finalization. I don't hear any comments, and I don't see any comments from my side here from online. We're good. Then we'll move on to comments from the chair and the land use administrator. I don't have any comments. Ryan, do you have any comments?
Only for the commissioners on the iPad, there's two tabs open. The one that you normally have with the packet, and then there's another tab that will bring you back to the page on the website with the links to the different chapters as well as the maps. So when we get to talking about the maps, that's how you'll get to them.
Okay, I thought that was a nice addition. That I tried that earlier and it works really well. So hopefully that doesn't bog us all down tonight. Anything else, Ryan?
Nope.
Comments from citizens regarding items not on the agenda. Does any citizens in the audience or online have any comments?
You want to comment on something or ask questions about something that's on the agenda?
It's Matt, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Matt Kennison is here and he has comments on something on the agenda. So he will chime in when we get there.
Okay, so hearing no other comments for the agenda items, let's move to the approval of the minutes meeting for January 5th, 2026. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review those. And does anybody have any comments? If there are no comments, would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second.
What's the date on the minutes is January 5th, 2026. You want to do them one at a time?
Yeah, let's do them one at a time because I have comments on the second set of minutes.
Okay.
So for the January, should I have a motion to approve the minutes with any corrections for January 5th, 2026? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay, so it sounds like Howard, you second the motion. Right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Or are there any abstentions?
Are you voting and is Joe still with us and is he voting?
I am with you. We need to do roll call vote while we have members online.
That's correct.
Okay, sorry about that. So go ahead if the secretary could go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Who's the secretary?
That I think it
I
was.
would assume that would be me.
I think it might be you, Mike, because
Was I the secretary?
I think you are.
Oh, okay.
I think you're the secretary, Mike.
I will dispute it, whatever. So all in favor of voting for the minutes of February 5th, right? January 5th. Joseph Bouglet.
Aye.
Hank?
I'm abstaining. I was not here.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, well,
if you're okay with the minutes,
then I'll. I didn't look at them that close.
Well, you can do whatever you want.
I'll continue to abstain because I didn't look at them very closely because I wasn't there.
Okay, Howard?
Yeah.
Mike Todd, aye, and
Brian, yes. All right, we have the motion passed. Let's move down to the minutes of, I have the correct date here. Monday, February 2nd, 2026.
make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any corrections that anybody like to bring up? I have a one small correction. It's a typo on page 5. Let's see. I think it's page. Sorry, page 5. My name's spelled wrong. That's the only thing. I thought otherwise it's nicely done. I don't know if that really makes a difference, but across the T's and dots the I's, here we are. Anybody have any other corrections or amendments to the minutes?
Nothing here.
Okay, Mike, you want to call the roll then?
Hank,
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Michael Todd, I, Joseph,
Aye.
Brian.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
Mhm.
Okay, moving on to the next agenda item then. Just catch back up here. Discussion. So we're on to number 6, draft town plan finalization. Ryan, do you want to kick us off on that?
Sure. So, a couple new components. We've already gone through the chapters a number of times, but there's a new introduction, as well as an appendix, and then several maps. So I think I have a number of comments on maps and things like that. But maybe it's best to go through, the new plan materials before the map. So, I suppose starting right off on the first page, Joe had asked about the title, Town Plan Conservation and Development. That's something that Howard had brought up. And I liked it. I like the sound of it, and I think it helps sort of narrow the focus of what the town plan is, because like we've experienced and just talking about what should be included in the town plan and what shouldn't be, when we started talking about the listers and the town clerk and things like that. I think it's important to understand this is a town plan specific to conservation and development and finding that balance, as opposed to like a master plan for the town. So I thought it sort of was clarifying. So that's why I put it in there as a proposal. But Joe had asked about that, so I just wanted to answer his.
If I could follow up on that real quick as well. My big question on that is, will it have any kind of like unforeseen consequences of changing it from just a town plan, where you're going to have things that people are going to come in and look for like the cell towers and different PUD type of things, where they're going to be looking for the town plan? If we're calling it something else, could that inadvertently trigger something that we didn't think of?
That's a good point.
So
Yeah,
I personally would like to stick with it being called the town plan, because I believe other municipalities call their town plans just the town plan. And I would hate for us to go through all this work to have it all set up to be able to, put all the safeguards in place, do everything we can to protect our town. And because we changed the name of it, it no longer is applicable.
So I did a little sleuthing this afternoon. I looked at other towns, and I don't know about you, Ryan, but I couldn't find, and I sampled like 12 towns. I just randomly went around the state. I couldn't find any other towns or larger or small cities that called anything else but a town plan.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
I like the concept, but I agree with Joe.
Alternatively, we could also change the look of the title so it's town plan in bigger letters, and then sort of a subtitle in smaller letters, just to make it clear that town plan is town plan.
What is it called statutorily?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Mike. I tried to find that out and I couldn't.
I think it's called a municipal plan. Do you want to call it municipal plan?
Well,
I think that every word has a meaning, and when we add new words in there, we open up ourselves to interpretation. I do like, the idea of it, but I just want to make sure that we don't inadvertently, get ourselves into a pickle. So I'd like to see it as the town plan.
The other thing that can happen is, historically, it's been the town plan for us.
Yep.
And you start calling it something else, people are going to think it is something else. And well, where's the town plan? Or, well, I've got this part, but that's only this part. Where's the town plan? It could invoke confusion, I'm thinking, on some levels. And that not just here, like Joe has pointed out, it could.
Brian, do you care that much? Let's call it the town plan and keep going.
All right.
Yep. I think I would agree with that. Let's just change that to make it the town plan then.
And I agree with everybody. I think it should be the town plan. It's always been the town plan, and to call it something else is to invite confusion. Just my 2 cents.
Okay, so, um, let's go through the introduction, any comments and questions, things like that.
Ryan, I'm going to rely on you tonight to, I emailed you my list. I'm running 2 iPads here and I don't have access to the list I sent you of my edits. So
Okay. Yeah,
I'm-
I didn't know.
I apologize, but I'm juggling iPads here in order to do this meeting today. So
You didn't have anything in the intro, just chapter 1 is where it starts.
okay. I mean, a lot of it is statutory that you list down
How
there.
about I'll share my screen with your comments and then it'll just be up as we go.
Okay, thanks. And feel free to chime in if I miss anything here. Does anybody have any comments about the introduction through line 60? Let's start that way. Anybody online have any comments, anything up through line 60? Not hearing anything. What about, we start with line 63, and it really is all statutory, which isn't boilerplate. We really can't change that if we're using. And Ryan, I'm guessing that you just took this chapter and verse from the statutory regulations, correct?
Not exactly. So this is basically to fulfill our obligations to speak to these items. So those statute sections say the town plan shall discuss this. And so after finishing all the chapters, I went back and those were sort of remaining. And I thought that they were so sort of broad in general. They sort of fit in the intro because they're not specific to one particular chapter.
Okay, so you sort of are summarizing the intent of, say, line 65, 24 VSA 4382 parens A and parens 1 then. Is that correct?
Yeah, I sort of restated it and then answered or provided what it requested.
Yeah, I didn't read it I mean, I read it, but I didn't go and look up the statute to see what it said. So I'm a little bit at a disadvantage here. I should have done that, but I didn't.
Do you want me to read the statute and you can see how it compares?
Yeah, for me, I think that would be helpful if everybody else agrees.
Okay. Okay, 4382 A1. So 4382 A1 says a statement. Actually, I'm getting covered up with this Zoom thing. A statement of objectives, policies, and programs of the municipality to guide the future growth and development of land, public services, and facilities, and to protect the environment. And so we have those objectives, policies, and programs discussed throughout the town plan. So I just sort of summarized that there.
And the next sentence is your summarization of the above?
Right. Yeah, so that was the whole statute, that A1.
I mean, I read it and said, gee, that sounds good. I should have gone back and checked the statute, but I just didn't do it. Ryan, do you want to go ahead and read line 75, the statute for 24? So it's the same heading, it's just A7 now.
Yep, A7. A7. A recommended program for the implementation of the objectives of the development plan. So I think Appendix A, which we'll get to in a little bit, sort of captures that. it's more of it summarizes all the actions that we provided and laid them out in more lumped them into kind of related projects. So that'll help with the implementation of it. And so in this paragraph, I just sort of summarized how we included the goals and the actions in each chapter, and then brought it all back together at the end to help with implementation. So not everything's not just lost in a big body of text.
So I'm just wondering, just thinking out loud here, and I need help from the other commissioners. Do we want to, in italics, just cite the statute, since you give the call out number, but I know when I read these things, I go, oh, what is that statute? It'd be nice if it was in the town plan, because if these are the statutory obligations, shouldn't we? And I appreciate your summary, and I think we ought to leave that, but do we want to, in italics, put the actual statute in there, and so people know what that is, and then you can use the rest as your summation? Does that make sense to everybody?
It does to me.
Yeah, I like that. I like the way that is in the chapters.
Okay,
And
so
that way
I'll write out the statute language itself before the language that I provide.
Yeah.
but I would italicize it so everybody knows that it's not, because you're really doing two separate things. You're doing the statute, and then we're giving an interpretation, or we're saying this is what the town plan, how it addresses these statutes, if I'm understanding everything correctly.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
Does that everybody else agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody online have any comments? Hearing none. Let's move down to, if we're done with the introduction, let's move down to chapter 1. And I think, Ryan, you did a great job just pasting the statutory requirements there, because it really covers a lot of ground here when you read this.
Mm-hmm.
I had a comment on, I'm sorry, wrong line. Let's keep going. Does anybody have a comment on the first page there down through line 48?
No.
I have a comment that's only relevant to every single page, which is, is there a reason we decided to number them, do the line numbering by section versus continuous?
It's continuous for the chapter, and
Right.
just because each document is
There's
their
separate documents.
I haven't compiled everything yet.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think if we get through it all tonight, then I can make a single document. Yeah.
I think it's fine. It'll.
Okay. Then let's move to page 23, starting with line 49. We go on down, and I think, Ryan, you had struck parts of, starting on line 70. I think you struck that last time, if I remember correctly.
We faced this at the last meeting, and it just added confusion.
Okay. Anybody have any comments down through line 93?
Just to be clear, I'm making sure that DeForest is keeping up. Looks like I can't see anybody now, but that line 70, 71, 72 is the information that she was questioning at the last meeting.
Right. And we struck that.
Yes.
And Mike, I can't see if someone has with sharing Ryan's screen here, I can't see if anybody's raising a question. So you guys are going to have to pay attention to that for me, because I don't see the online folks if they have a question.
I will. And Matt, if you got something that you want to chime in, just get my attention.
Cover the maps.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody, any questions through line 93 online or at the commission?
No, I was good with deleting the section 70 to 72 at the.
Great. Thanks, DeForest. All right. If nobody has any comments, let's move to page 24, starting with line 94, going down through line 138. Are there any comments? Anybody online have any comments?
No comments from me.
No comments here. No.
Okay, starting with line 139 on page 25, going down through line 173.
Nothing here?
Online.
Nope.
Okay, starting on page 26, line 175, down through line 219, and then this is starting on line 213. This is where we struck part of 210 through 213, and we inserted some language we developed at the last meeting. And I think we at the time at the last meeting, if I remember correctly, we all agreed that that was fine.
Hi, guys. I gotta hop off this meeting. I just showed up at the property I gotta deal with. So,
Thanks, Joe.
all right. Have a good night. If I get a chance, I'll jump back on. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Any comments down through 219 from the commission or anybody online?
I'm good here.
Anybody here?
No, nothing here.
Nothing here, Brian.
Okay, starting on page 27, line 220, down through 268 or 264. And this is where we, at the last meeting, struck some language and inserted some new language in green. I believe at the last meeting, we agreed that both of these changes were okay.
I'm good.
Okay, if no one has any comments, we'll move on to
Everybody here?
page. Okay, we'll move on to page 28, starting at 265, going down through 309. It's really been the same. I don't think anybody had any comments the last time. So if there's no,
comments?
You had your comment, Brian, to add Weathersfield in front of Center Road.
yeah, that was just me splitting hairs there. But because when not everybody knows what the center road is if you're not from town.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, if no one has any comments down through 309, we'll go to page 29, starting with 310. That really is unchanged. We all good? We all good at the commission and online?
Yes.
Good here.
Okay. All right. Moving to page 30, line 355, down through 399. There were no changes as of the last meeting.
All good?
Here. Okay.
Good.
All right. Then page 31, starting at 400, going right on down through 444. Same as last meeting. I think we went through this a couple of times. There's no comments. We'll move to page 32, starting with 445, down to 489.
Looks good here.
Yep.
You know, can I back up to page 31? Ryan, there was a typo on line 439. Sorry, I missed that. Maybe on solution. I think it should be maybe a solution.
Got it.
Okay. And then if you could slide up my cheat sheet for me when you have a moment on the online version, Ryan. Thank you. Okay, hearing no comments, we'll move to page 33, starting with 490, down through 533. There's really been no changes since the last meeting.
Up in here.
Okay, page 34, starting at 534. We're going to move right down through 578. Again, no changes since the last meeting.
Good.
Okay, page 35, 579, down through 623. No changes since the last meeting.
Good here.
Okay, page 36, line 624 through 635. And I think we have no comments. Then we'll move on to chapter 2. Again, chapter 2, starting with line 3, Ryan's laid out the the regulations we need to follow, and then down through page, line 44, no changes since the last meeting.
Good.
Page 38, starting at 45, right on down through 87, 88, no changes since the last meeting.
There was an addition of in Weathersfield to the goal on
Whoops,
river crossings in Weathersfield.
Line 65.
sorry.
Sorry.
Yep, now I see that. My mistake. And
Thank you for
everybody's,
adding that.
yeah, that was good. Thank you. If there's no other comments, I'll move to 39, page 39. Oh, if I go back to 38, sorry. Line 52, I thought we should insert the Connecticut River before the Black River because we really should say both, I believe. If I'm reading that correctly, Ryan. Line 50, lift 52. Because the bald eagle nests on the Connecticut River too.
Okay, sounds good.
Sorry to be picky, but
Nope, that's good. We're at the picky point.
39, starting with line 89, down through 132. I don't believe there's been any changes since the last meeting. And then page 40, starting with 133, down through 176. There's been no changes. Page 41, starting at 177. I think I had, yes, okay. I had some questions here. So on Ryan, on page 2, and I don't know why I missed this last time, but under the action, 177 to create or repair vegetative buffers on rivers and streams. And I was wondering, how is the town repairing the buffers? Because am I reading that correctly?
I think the goal is to have the vegetative buffers repaired, and the people who would do the work is likely would be the landowners, may potentially with the volunteers for the Conservation Commission or something like that. But so the idea with this, I think that's specific to the Conservation Commission section that says encourage landowners along the rivers and streams to retain and enhance buffers. So that would, you know, repair
could we,
without the town being the ones to go out and do the physical work necessarily.
all right, could we say create or encourage the restoration of vegetative buffers on rivers or streams?
Say that again.
Create or encourage the restoration of vegetative buffers on rivers or streams.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm reading it like that was the goal and then the action is below. But yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Okay, if everybody agrees with that, we'll make that small change. I have no other comments down through 220 unless someone else has comments. Page 42, line 223 still has that asterisk floating in there.
I think it's deleted. It's just the strikeout is below the asterisk because it's not.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I called it out in another section, so I'll let you worry about that then. And then we also struck on line 251, the last sentence. We shortened the sentence after Mount of Scutney and removed the designation should continue through Golden Ridge Road. I think we all agreed that was where we wanted to be at the last meeting, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
All right. If nobody has any further comments down through 264, we'll move on to page 43, starting with 265. I have no changes noted. If there's no comments, we'll move to page 44.
Got another asterisk down on 339.
Yeah, I saw that. Through 340, any other changes besides the asterisk? Then moving on to page 45, chapter 3. So I had a question there, Ryan, was there, we have this old data in there. Am I doing that line 22 on page 45? Yeah, 2012 inventory of businesses. That was 14 years ago. Do we want to even leave that in there?
Sorry. I
Line,
think line 22 on page 45.
I mean, this is 2026. We're using data from 2012. I mean, it may
Yeah.
be the same, but I'm just wondering, it seems so out of date.
I think we talked about it at one point. I think the only reason that it was worth leaving in there, I think, is because it's, at least to me, it was surprising how many businesses there are. I think when you think of it, you think of like the storefronts and things, which you might be able to think of like 10 or 12 or something, but there's actually a lot of businesses that you just don't necessarily see every day while you're driving. So it's definitely outdated, but I think it serves the purpose of showing that there's a lot more happening
Okay.
than you necessarily see.
Okay,
So could we just change that to say in Weathersfield, approximately there are 105 businesses? So we say approximately and get rid of the 2012?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Eliminate.
Yeah, get rid of the,
where is the inventory located at? The 2012 inventory, who has it?
Who knows?
That
That
would
was-
be with the materials from the last rewrite of the town plan. I remember that being done. So
Yes.
right.
it would be wherever that paperwork is stored. There were quite a few folders of paperwork from work on the last rewrite. It would be in there.
Um, my thought, and this doesn't necessarily mean that Ryan's idea isn't adequate either. But perhaps we could review that list of inventory, leave this in here and just change the numbers to reflect.
Work, a lot of work. I think we should leave the date and the numbers in there as it is, or pretty close as it is, because this is very handy information to know. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's not interesting.
Well, that's why I said just get rid of 2012 and
But
say
if we-
approximately.
But if we keep the 2012, if we happen to do this again, and I kind of remember from our previous conversation, there was some discussion about doing some kind of inventory. Then we'll have the date right there. We won't have to be like, oh boy, it would have been nice to know when that number's, I think the date is a good thing to keep, even if it feels weird to refer that far back.
I think it also keeps it honest. Like if we said there's about 105 businesses currently, we don't really know that. But if there was an inventory done and that was the exact number that was provided, at least we can say at the time when the inventory was done, that was what was there. So it's true even if it's outdated.
I agree.
All right. Sorry, so to move on here, what's the feeling of everyone?
Data, especially like the housing section. And one of our goals or action items is to update the data. And I think the way that that's worded is to update the data used throughout the town plan. So that would be one of the things that we should go back to and update.
Okay, I'll withdraw my comment then. We'll leave it in if everybody else agrees.
Yes.
Okay, any other comments? There was a deletion on 43 of NTFPS. And then we added vineyards and wineries on 45 at the last meeting. Hearing no other comments, we'll move to page 46, starting with line 46 and going down through 90. I had a comment on 87. Line 8, because we talk about PUDs. I rewrote that last sentence to say, instead of saying planned unit development regulation may be refined to ease the permitting process and achieve this goal, I wrote to achieve this goal, PUD regulation should be, and I can't see because my screen is not cooperating. Ryan, could you scroll that up a little bit for me? A little further, a couple more clicks. There you go. There we go. So to achieve this goal, P2 regulation should be refined to protect large parcels by allowing a small percentage of the parcel to be subdivided and the remaining area of the parcel to be conserved to support viable commercial timber sales. Because the next sentence says, agriculture says through similar strategies as above, which is referring to what that whole thing says. I think that maybe ties it in better because we've had discussions, not that we've done anything, but we've had a lot of discussions about how we can open up some developable land and still conserve the larger parcels.
I'm good with it, but I don't know if do we really want to get that specific in saying timber sales? Because it seems like you're kind of like pointing to one thing as opposed to some of it might just be open space.
But
Yes. It's under the forestry though, Mike.
Okay.
So maybe change timber sales to, and Ryan, you're the forestry expert. Maybe there's another word we could use, viable forest products or.
No, I think timber sales is what we want because we're talking about commercial viability and, being able to generate money. Because you can do forestry on 1 acre, which is fine. You could do a viable timber harvest on 1 acre. You could do solid silviculture there, but what we're talking about is trying to retain enough land that a commercial timber sale is something that's still viable.
Right. And how many acres minimum do you think that is? 10?
It's more like 20, 25.
Yeah, okay. The only reason I phrased it the way I did was because it was listed under forestry, Mike.
Yeah, I see that now. My apologies.
No, it's a good point.
Can you state your change one more time?
To achieve this goal, PUD regulations should be refined to protect large parcels by allowing a small percentage of the parcels to be subdivided and the remaining area of the parcel to be conserved to support viable commercial timber sales.
Where does that start? Are you replacing the whole language behind the dash after forestry?
No, just the last.
No. So on 87 after timber sales period, I pulled out the PUD language and stuck that in there. I guess I was just trying to say that we want to try to implement a PUD that allows large landowners that want to subdivide a small parcels by using the PUD process to make it an easier way to do this.
I think just your language might be better. It just with the sentence beforehand, it's a little bit redundant. Both sentences would talk about commercial timber sales and maintaining large parcels.
Yeah, and then that next sentence it kind of covers it and everything else. Because I know this particular area is about forestry, but you're already talking about the forestry there, like Ryan just pointed out. And then planning and development regulations may be refined to ease the permitting process to achieve this goal. I mean, that sentence could be taken and used just about anywhere where the goal is to conserve land or allow for greater development on a larger lot in a smaller area and protect a larger area for whatever its purpose is.
Well, Mike, maybe you made a good suggestion there. Maybe we should say, change my sentence to say PUD regulations should be refined to protect large parcels by allowing a small percentage of lands to be subdivided to achieve this goal.
But isn't that the actual language of the PUD already?
Well,
this is the town plan, so it's not really, it's a guide. It's not at this point here, it's just a guide. It's not really the bylaw that's actually gonna do
Well,
that.
how about this then? Let's just take the whole thing out. Strike the PUD development regulation may be fine to ease the permitting process and achieve this goal.
Oh, no, I think that needs to be there, don't you?
Yeah, I think it does. And Brian, it sounds like what you're trying to identify is how the planned unit development does that. Because unless you know what a planned unit development already is, then you don't know what that means. But and so it seems like the new information that you're providing is it would allow a landowner to subdivide a smaller piece while retaining the larger piece.
And that's why I put it in there, because no one knows what a PUD is. And this is the first time a planned unit development's popped up in the town plan. And maybe that's not the appropriate place to explain it, but it's an unfamiliar term when you mention it to non-planning and zoning folks.
Yeah, I think we could add what you said. PUDs should be refined to protect large parcels by allowing a small percentage of the parcel to be subdivided, and the remaining area of the parcel to be conserved. I think that language
Period.
should fit into what's existing without reframing the whole thing. I can just put that sort of explains how that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. And get rid of that last part of what I wrote there to support viable commercial timber sales.
Okay.
Any other comments? Online comments?
No comments here.
All right, hearing none. And we'll move on to page 46. I'm sorry, 47, starting with 91 through 136. There's no comments. We'll move on to page 48, starting with 137. There's been no changes down through 182 since the last time. If we move to page 49, starting at 183 down through 228, I had a comment on 228. My comment was, this is the Conservation Commission action, talks about trails, mapping, and identified. And then I added to that sentence that starts with a plan for the maintenance and management of the trail system shall be established. And I put in there in conjunction with the adjoining property owners and the oversight, because I think we need to mention the adjoining property owners or the property owners.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Brian. That's the first thing that pops into my mind when we start talking about trails. Are we talking about class 4 roads that actually belong to the town that were transferred over and turned into trails, which basically still belong to the town, or are we talking about private property? In either case, I think the property owners need to be involved in that. That was kind of one of the things that blew up with me a couple of years ago. Was we had a few people on the Crown Point Road that weren't happy that people just showed up to start cutting brush and clearing trails on their land and hadn't even come to talk to them.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned that, Mike, because, and here's a bias on my part, I have a big section of the Crown Point Road that crosses my property. I don't object to that, and I don't object to maintenance being done. I just want to know about it and be consulted before it starts it.
Exactly. We have to work together.
Yep.
On those things.
So I mean, maybe there's another way to phrase it, but with the adjoining property owners, because I think you're right, Mike, the class 4 roads, if a class 4 road runs through my property, I don't own the class 4 road, correct?
That's correct. It's a town right away.
Yes.
You own property, but it has
I own the property still.
So it's both.
Yeah. Okay. So it would be the adjoining property owners then.
Yep, I like it.
Okay, does that make sense to everyone?
Could I
Mhm.
suggest instead of saying adjoining, you say the affected property owners?
Even
Yeah.
better.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I like that.
Because you do own
Yeah.
the land under the right of way. That doesn't change. So you're neither adjacent nor next to it or whatever, but you are certainly
Affected.
affected by it.
Yeah, thank you, DeForest.
Sure.
Okay, if that's good, Ryan, you can make that change then.
Yeah.
If there's no other comments, we can move to page 50.
Just wanted to ask a question. Sorry. Just want to
Sure.
clarify. A plan for the maintenance and management of the trail system shall be established in collaboration with the affected landowners and the town? Is that where we're headed for that?
That was my thinking.
Okay. It should be a collaboration between the two because the property owners own the property, the town owns the right of way. The two parties need to work together. So it
Right.
would be
Yeah.
a collaborative effort between the two parties to create this plan for the maintenance and management of the trail systems.
Okay, so
Okay.
change consumption to collaboration. Is that what you're suggesting?
What was the first word?
Conjunction?
I
So
think,
Ryan,
I think
you can-
collaboration makes it more, it sounds more like teamwork between, and I think it should be affected property owners and the town to make clear who the collaboration is between.
I would agree.
Okay.
I
Thank-
agree.
Thanks.
All right. If we're good there, let's change, let's go to page 50. Starting at 224. We added last time starting on 234, the canoe and kayak launching area at the state park. I think we all agreed that was a good idea.
Right.
And then I had a comment on 228.
Can I ask about on line 236?
Sorry, Mike. Sure.
This resource should be explored as an option by making it more user friendly by residents. Is by making it the right term to use there? Do we own that?
So what
No.
library?
236.
I have a
canoe-
question about that line too. How that access is in a state park. How does the town make it more user friendly?
Right.
Well,
That's-
you can get
I was
passes
wondering.
from the library.
Then let's say that.
Well, that was one of the options. I think we had discussed you could go to the state park and buy your day pass. Maybe it's more user friendly if you can have a season pass, or maybe it's not a season pass. Maybe the library has passes that you can go get. There was a few different options that were thrown around, and it was more of a discussion about how can we make this more maybe accessible, maybe a better word than user friendly.
I think more people need to know that it's available.
Right.
And that there are passes available at the library. I don't know that we need to go any further than that.
But that might not be the solution or the only solution. There aren't passes, or are there passes available at the library currently, or is that something in the works?
No, it's available.
It's available.
Okay. So what should it be changed to?
Just make this resource more widely known by the community and aware that free passes are available at the library. Free or reduced cost. I can't speak to whether they're free or whether it's a discount.
It's free. You can check them out on your library card.
Well, there you go. So just make this resource more widely known by the general public and aware that there are passes for free access available at the library.
Is everyone good with that?
Yep.
Okay. And then if we go down to line 241, if I'm on the right page here, hold on, sorry. I think my line on page 50, I had a comment. I really think I meant to say probably line 248. I wanted to insert in there because we talk about encouraging development on collector roads and constructing sidewalks or alternative facilities. I wanted to insert promote complete streets because it's in the transportation section. We talk about promoting safe streets. I'm just wondering if we shouldn't put that in under the planning commission actions. So we could say improve facilities to make the village more walkable by promoting complete streets, encouraging development on collector roads, and the construction of sidewalks. On it goes. So that would be line 247.
I agree with that.
Is everyone else okay with that change?
What's the change again?
So on 247, Mike, it says, if you read that, it says more walkable by, and I was going to put there after walkable, promote complete streets, comma, encourage development on collector roads and construct sidewalks or alternative facilities. And it goes on from there. I wanted to insert promote complete streets because we have it in the transportation section. And I think it's important when we start talking about making a village more walkable, we need to talk about promoting complete streets because that's a whole safety and a whole bunch of things that the state has, and we have it in the transportation plan.
Okay.
So if everybody's good with that change, Ryan, if you could insert that. Going down to 273, any other changes?
My connection is bad. I apologize if I cut in and out, but I had a question on line 241 and 242. Limit formula businesses and prevent strip development and a general aesthetic. That sentence doesn't make sense to me.
Right, it doesn't.
Yeah. It's like it doesn't really finish.
Well, are we preventing a general aesthetic? I'm not even sure what a general is. That like general anesthesia? I don't know what that means.
Generic.
Do you mean and create a village? I don't know. I'm lost for words. Sorry. I don't know what it means.
It's
You know
to
what I
prevent
think?
generic aesthetic, like any sort of strip of box stores. You know, people talk about it like anywhere America. It's to kind of
Oh, I get it. Yeah, sorry, I just connected the dots. And a generic aesthetic.
right.
Yeah. Okay. My bad.
Any other comments down through line 273? Hearing none. Page 51, 274 through 279. And we looked at that last time. There's no comments. We'll move on to chapter 4, housing. And again, Ryan, you cite the statute, which I think is great. And we really spent, I think, a lot of time on this the last couple of meetings previous, going through all of this and talking about the data, the years of the data. And I think, Ryan, that's where the comment comes about updating some of this data, correct?
Yeah, there's actually some update. I mean, a lot of this was updated by Mark because they had access to some of this stuff. So there is a lot of newer data. There's questions about how useful it is. There was something. I don't know. I thought that it was in here as well. It does talk about some stuff from 2010, but I'm thinking of something from that time period as well.
Yeah, above line 65, it talks about 2010 and then 2030 projected. Yeah, I'm down to line 87. I don't have any comments. Does anybody have any comments through 87?
No, I'm good.
Good.
If not, we'll switch to the next page, 56, starting with 88. And again, spent a lot of time on this. And there was a typo on page 100 that Ryan corrected. And down through 132, does anybody have any comments?
No, sir.
Moving to page 57, starting on 133.
I do. I just have a suggestion, and I promise I'm reading more closely. It's not turning generic into general. Sorry. On line 147, 148, it says improve PUD regulations and processes to encourage cluster development to promote open space. Could I suggest that we add and to reduce infrastructure costs? I fear when people read it's to promote open space, they think it's a tree hugger thing and they dismiss it. PUD regulations can help reduce the cost of infrastructure and amenities that help drive up the cost of development. So I just wondered if we could add the words and reduce infrastructure costs to the end of that sentence.
I think that would.
I agree with that, but also the word impact to forest. It's because in the same way, in reducing the cost, you're also reducing the impact of the infrastructure on the landscape.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's a good change. Thank you.
It's a reduction in roads.
Yep. And water and sewer lines and electrical lines and reduce paving, reduce plowing, reduce sanding. It's just it's a more economical way to produce housing, but it
And
also
hopefully lower costs.
Yeah, which
Yes.
it tends to get dismissed as being one of those hippie tree hugger things when they see it's just promote open space. There's a lot more to it than that.
So Ryan, do you have that language captured or you need it restated for you?
And reduce infrastructure costs and impact.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other comments down through 155?
Not from me.
All right, then if there's no other comments, we'll move to page 58, chapter 5. Another chapter that we spent a lot of time on. Down through line 46. Hearing no comments, I'll move to 59, starting at 47. We made the change at the last meeting, I believe, at line 73.
So this changes to make it clear that the town cannot direct the water district to do anything.
That's correct. Any other comments down through 92? Hearing none, I'm going to move to page 60, starting at 93 and going down through 138.
Good.
Good.
Ryan, I talked to you for a moment this afternoon about this. I think you called it a CHIPS program or something.
Right.
It was something that I don't even remember who was that brought it up. It might have been at the is Rika on? It might have been at the GOP meeting last week, where there's like a ton of money in grant funds for wastewater projects in Vermont. And I want to make sure that I had mentioned that we would look at fitting that. And this might be possibly an area where that would show up.
To mention the CHIP program in the town plan here.
Yeah, I don't want to throw a big wrench in the works here. We got to be moving along.
We have the infrastructure program.
Right.
Yeah, I think if it's not already in here, it would be worth mentioning just like using the different state programs or grant programs. But I don't know if we want to call that out that one out specifically. Let's just see if our actions encompass that. Oh, well, okay, so like we're to seek funding and support additional wastewater feasibility studies. So that does say seek funding. Coordinate with regional and state partners to align technical recommendations for wastewater with funding opportunities. And regulatory pathways. Work with the town manager to address wastewater challenges and advance the town's long-term planning goals. So it's mentioned funding opportunities is the way we've talked about it. Which
Hey,
should
Mike,
be fun. I think since we know about it, we should talk about it, and it should be on top of everyone's mind. But I don't. That's current. It might not be current, down the road.
Yeah, so the question I have about CHIPS, the little that I know about it is, I think it's not, they didn't fund it in perpetuity. It's just a slug of money that's going to be available that I'm not sure what the longevity of that will be, if it'll be a 3, 5, or 7 year payout on that. Mike, do you know any more about that?
I really don't. I was stunned when I heard about it. And BL Coffin, our state rep, had talked to Brandon about it, and I hadn't heard anything about it. So I haven't even had a chance to talk to Brandon about it yet. But he is aware of it. I did ask him about it on the phone, but we didn't discuss it.
While we're on the subject, there's a VLCT, Vermont League of Cities and Towns, putting on an educational webinar on Thursday about this program. I'm signed up to watch it. You do need to register, which Suzanne can help you with. You need to have an account. But it would be worthwhile for select board members and anyone else interested to watch this. I think it'd be a useful one.
And what time is that webinar?
I think it's 10 a.m. on Thursday.
So getting back to inserting funding opportunities here, we talk about on line 90, apply for grants to fund the needs for the improvement under water supply and wastewater. We could easily insert something after line 131 to talk about seeking funding for improvements to the wastewater. So it's in there in both places, which I think that's your point, Mike, correct?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're not missing out on opportunities that we may need resources for.
Yeah. And as we all know, if it's not in the town plan and you apply for the grant, that's a challenge. So if maybe we should say under the wastewater, since we have it under the potable water, maybe under the wastewater, we ought to, after on 131, stick a bullet in there saying seek state funding for the improvement of wastewater systems.
State or federal. And wherever it's coming from.
So do you think it's not captured under coordinate with regional and state partnerships to align the technical recommendations for wastewater systems with funding opportunities and regulatory pathways? That's like saying work with Mark or other partners to figure out where are there funding opportunities. So it kind of says we should be exploring those opportunities and working with those partners already. It doesn't explicitly say we should apply for grants, but it's sort of in there.
Well, yeah, say it on line 171, select board action, seek funding.
Okay, sounds good.
So I think we have it covered. It's not, I worry about putting chips in there because the little bit I've read about it is I'm not sure that program's going to last after the money runs out.
No, I think it's fine for this to stay broad, whatever funding is available from whatever source.
Right. Yeah, I think I would agree with you. Just leave seek fundings. Okay. Sorry, let's go back. I think we were down through line 138, if I'm correct, and page 60. Moving to 61, 139 through 162. Are there any comments? If not, I'll move to page 62. past our decentralized waste system map down through line 175. If there's nothing there, I'll move on to 63, starting at 176 and moving down to 220. And the only change on that page was line 218 through 219. It was inserted that there's the 500K solar field by the town garage. The rest is unchanged.
That was just relocated from below.
Yes, thanks, Ryan. And then on page 64, as Ryan just pointed out on 227, that was struck and moved up. And I believe down through 265, there are no other changes. And then moving to page 65, starting at 266, we talk about, we get into wireless communication goals and actions, which we discussed at great length. There's been no changes on that. If we move to page 66, highway garage, there's been a change. We started 312. If you move down to line 325, was the insertion of, for the highway department to secure a long-term solution to provide potable water to the highway department staff. And then the rest was struck.
I had reached out to Ray and just sent him this action and said what's already been completed, and he said everything except the water, potable water.
Okay, is everybody good with that?
Yep.
Down through 357. Then we're going to move on to 67, starting at 358, and then starting at line 366. We struck the Golden Cross ambulance in the Windsor County Sheriff Department, which kind of makes that more generic in case either one of those two things change. If we move down to 374, we made the change the last time. I think DeForest suggested that the schoolhouse is the only handicap accessible, publicly owned meeting venue in the village of Perkinsville, which I think was a good change. Down through 403, no other changes. Moving on to 68, starting with 404. There has been no changes down through 449. If we look at 69, starting at 450, I don't believe there's been any changes down through 495. If we move to page 70, starting at 496, there's been no changes down through 541. Page 71, 542. There's been no changes down through 568. Page 72, we're starting at 587. I don't believe there's been any changes down through 632. And we start at 72, starting at 633. There has been no changes down through 677. Page 74, 678, down through 699, no changes have been made. Does anybody have any comments?
Nope.
Moving quickly on to chapter number 6, transportation. Again, we spent a lot of time on this in the last few meetings, starting with number 1 through 26 in the table below. There's been no changes. Moving to page 76, starting at 27. There's been no changes down through 72. Starting on 77, line 73. There have been no changes down through 117. 170 on page 78, starting at 118 line. There have been no changes through 163.
I have a question. Section 6.4, routine maintenance practices. I wasn't clear about the format of this little section and thought, should there be like an introductory sentence that says the town highway department will maintain routine maintenance practices through the following items and then go regular inspection, surface repairs, et cetera, et cetera. It's just a bulleted list under routine. It doesn't say who does it, or I was a little confused by the format.
Yeah, I think it's inferred, but I think you're right, DeForest. A one sentence saying the highway department's responsible would be a good idea.
Yeah, just to clarify who's doing this.
Yep.
A little bit lower, we use bullets also. I don't know if you like the formatting of the dashes, or if it just was what Ray sent you.
Sometimes it's whatever Word wants me to do.
Yeah, that's why I'm not clear too.
Okay. Any other changes down through 163? If not, page 79, starting on 164. We do all the road summaries, no real changes down through 189. Starting at 190.
I'm sorry, I had a comment earlier, getting confused here. Under 6.5, the acronym PACER is given on line 135, but not spelled out until a couple of paragraphs further down. I guess it is spelled out, but it's further below. I had no idea what PACER meant.
We need to spell that out.
It's spelled out on line 161, and perhaps you could just move that spelling out of it, what PACER means up to that first mention of it on 135, just minor.
Okay, we'll make that change. Moving on to page 79, starting at 164. Down through 189, there's been no changes. Page 80, starting at 6.8 on 190, down through 225. And this is where we talk about all the Vermont programs. And that's continued on page 81. And then the federal programs down through 228. There's been no changes. If we go to page 82, we finish between 229 and 231. And that concludes that chapter. Does anybody have any comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to page 82, chapter 7, education. We have the statute, and then we have in bold the mission. And Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you had a recent review with the school folks here a meeting or two ago to kind of go over a few odds and ends.
Yeah, that was in the utilities facilities section. The statute required discussion about expansions and updates to school facilities. So it was covered in the utilities chapter.
Okay.
Nothing's here recently.
All right, so down through 47, no, there have been no changes.
I don't know why some of these town names and the school name are highlighted.
Are they clickable links?
Not on my version anyway, and I don't remember them being that way before. So I don't know. I think those should go back. I don't know what's up with that.
Okay. Down through 47, if there's no other comments, I'll move to page 84, starting with line 48, down through 93. There's been no changes. Line 85, starting with number 94. And continuing down through 140, there have been no changes. Starting on page 86 on line 141. There have been no changes down through 187. Page 87, starting on line 188. Down through line 224, there have been no changes. And then we move on to chapter 8. We have the statute. And then there have been no changes down through 44. Moving to page 89, starting line 45 down through 89, there have been no changes. Line 90 on page 90 down through 134, there have been no changes. Page 91, starting 135, finishing up with line 179, there have been no changes. Page 92, I picked up a typo on line 185. There needs to be a space, Ryan, after 10.
Yeah.
And other than that typo, down through 223, there are no other changes. Does anybody have any question on chapter 8?
Nope, not here.
Okay, hearing none, let's move on to chapter 9, starting on page 93. Down through page 45, there have been no changes. Page 94, starting with line 46. Down through 90, there have been no changes. Page 95, starting with line 91. Down through 135, there have been no changes. Page 96, starting with 136, down through 180, there have been no changes. Hey, Ryan, I have a question on 164. The in parens there, the maps is highlighted blue. Is that meant to be a clickable link for the online version of this, or is that just another thing that popped?
And we may want to take it out because the natural resources atlas is getting phased out in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I actually just clicked on it and it is clickable, but it goes to a page that's missing. So
That's,
It's gonna get
Yeah.
worse.
it might have been when we started this conversation, but yeah, we should get rid of it.
So what should we put in place of that, if anything? Hank, you have a suggestion?
Not for, I won't have a suggestion for, I think, another year or two, because I think that atlas is gonna be where it isn't for another 2 years or a year or two. I don't know what's coming next. But it's gonna have a different website, I would guess.
So do we just say refer to the state of Vermont Agency of Natural Information for more resource information?
Yeah, I could just provide a generic statement that the state has maps and programs.
And get rid of the clickable link. Okay. If that's okay with everybody, we'll move on to page 97, starting at 181. And there's been no changes down through 212. And then chapter 10, if no one has any questions on chapter 9, we'll move on to chapter 10, starting on page 98. And this is the very exciting standards for section 248 proceedings. If we start with line 1 and go down through 46, there's been no changes. We start on page 99, 47, down through 90, there have been no changes. Page 100, starting with line 91, there have been no changes down through line 133. Line 101, starting on 134, down through 174, there have been no changes. Page 102, starting line 175. Going down through 218, there have been no changes. Page 103, starting 219. Going down through 262, there have been no changes. Page 104, starting on line 263 and ending with line 308, there have been no changes. Page 105, 309, whole cellular tower, wireless Through 353, there have been no changes.
So Brian, on this one, DeForest had sent me some comments on this section. And I have them written out. If you want me to share those on the screen, we could go.
Please. Yeah,
I think-
absolutely. Did we lose DeForest?
Nope, I'm still here.
Oh, sorry.
No, no worries. What I had sent was just an edit of how item D 1 through 6 are presented, because it says restrictions on tower location and starts off with freestanding telecommunications towers, et cetera, may not be located in the following areas. Residential areas no closer than 1,500 feet. That says you can put them in residential areas, which conflicts with the sentence above it. So I took out the three places where they are absolutely prohibited: may not be located in protected habitats, historic districts, and historic sites that would have a visual impact, and at the airport, in the approach or departure routes. And then again, the telecommunications towers may be located in the following locations, subject to the following restrictions, and then put they can be in residential areas, but no closer than 1,500 feet to the boundary, et cetera. They can be in historic districts no closer than 500 horizontal feet to any site, et cetera. Do you see what I'm saying? I just
Yes.
grammatically cleaned it up a little.
So I thought that was a good catch, and when I started going through the different points of this, I ended up with a lot more comments about it. And so on the first number one on DeForest page was freestanding telecommunication yada may not be located in protected habitats. And it says in any habitat of any rare or endangered species as listed by the state of Vermont. And that sort of struck me as odd. And what's the point of that? A lot those bubbles that show the rare and endangered species tend to move a lot. And until recently, there was a bubble for the northern longleaf bat that basically covered the village of Perkinsville. It was two bubbles, very large bubbles that covered most of the town. And I thought, and it's since changed. It's no longer shown that way. It shows it's a little bit more confined to the Army Corps property, but it seems like that use in particular is probably not really the highest concern for those habitats. So to prohibit them on anywhere that shows a rare or an endangered species seems just sort of like not very precise.
So your suggestion, Ryan, is to delete that?
It is. Or maybe it can be refined to say that depending on whatever species it is that's present. I mean, really what we want is to not harm the endangered species that are there. And I think most situations, plants or animals, aren't going to be harmed by that. There might be some which need to be, which might need specific, controls. But I think the state's probably looking at that, and our sort of shotgun blast approach to say nothing should go in these locations, which can be pretty expansive, is probably not really doing the job.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to the discussion I had with Annette Smith about this. It's been almost a year ago, and we did talk about that.
One of the things that I thought of was like the summit of Mount Scottney. Mount Scottney is covered with significant natural areas and different things. I looked and there actually wasn't a bubble for a rare and endangered species, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is. And there are towers there. I don't know. It just seemed like that's not really the use that's going to harm those species.
I guess I saw this more as construction problems, maybe cutting roads in to install the tower, things like that. rather than the actual tower transmission itself.
Right. The act of construction. I agree with you, Howard, because that can be, depending on the situation, that can be pretty significant. You can alter drainage patterns and other things.
So is the PUC not going to look at a tower that's being put in the rare, threatened, endangered species bubble? You don't think the PUC would look at that and say we need to mitigate these impacts? Because it's about mitigating the impacts, not prohibiting the use at that point.
Right. I think when I remember talking to Annette, it came up with the construction more than the tower itself, because the tower itself doesn't really impact the endangered species. It's the physical act of putting the thing in there, and then whatever happens during the life of the tower.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if they say the fuel for the generator is diesel and they have a diesel spill instead of propane. So that conversation is sort of coming back to me now that I had with Annette. I don't know. I personally would like to leave it in there. I like the way DeForest edited this, but I'm only one opinion. Does anybody else have thoughts here so we can keep moving?
Just so you know, I wasn't challenging the content. I was just arranging it so that it says clearly they cannot be in these areas. In these other areas, they can be located, but they're subject to these restrictions. I wasn't challenging the content.
Yeah, and I appreciate the edits, DeForest. I think it's a lot clearer this way. I like it.
Thanks.
What do we want to do, folks?
So I'm in favor of less towers in general and more habitat, but it's just like it doesn't really jive. But I'm fine to leave it because it protects more than it harms.
So what lines is this that actually are getting replaced then?
Well,
30 through 130.
So DeForest, I think your intention was 323 down through 340, correct?
Correct. It was just a rearrangement of those with with a repeat of the freestanding. And the first section is freestanding towers may not be located in these areas. And then the second section is they may be, but they're subject to these restrictions.
Right.
Which is what you're saying, but it's just rearranged.
Yeah. It's written cleaner.
So anyway, if we want to leave the protected habitats, I think that's fine. It doesn't seem like it does the job, but that's fine to be overprotective in my opinion. I guess the next one that
so we are replacing the language with what DeForest is proposed, correct? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So
on 323 and 324, right?
Yes.
Well, so I think what she did was pull out the things that are completely prohibited. And I sort of went more towards her second half of that, which is on the screen, but let me scroll down. This is saying that they're allowed subject to these restrictions. I think we could probably, although my argument for the protected habitat is going to stand, so that's not really the same. I was going to say that all of these things that we're calling out would be allowed subject to certain restrictions. With the like the historic districts and historic tower sites or historic sites, towers are prohibited in any location that would have a visual impact on the historic district or sites. It doesn't. That's a restriction. We could say that they are allowed in the areas, but subject to the restriction that the towers are prohibited in any location that would have a visual impact on the historic district or sites. So that also could fit under the lower section. And then same with the airports. We can say that because it says airport : but that's not a defined term, and there's not a defined area that we're talking about. We're providing the restriction, which is within the approach or departure routes or patterns of the Hardin State Airport. That could also be under that lower section. So the only blanket statement at that point is the protected habitats, which I was sort of arguing against.
Okay.
So what do we want to do here, folks?
So I think what I want to do is put everything under DeForest's second phrasing and saying that they are subject to the following restrictions, and then take all of them and put them under that. Because we don't have, other than the protected habitats, which is a explicit location, those other things we don't have defined, like the historic districts and sites. I guess the districts are defined, but not necessarily the sites, and not necessarily the resources that we call out in the town plan, and the airport departure routes and patterns are not explicitly defined in our town plan. So it just seems like they can all fit under that secondary phrasing.
Ryan, the thing I like is I like the way DeForest lays this out because to me it's clearer. I like having that separation.
Okay, but it says may not be located in the following areas: historic districts and historic sites. So a tower may not be located in a historic site, which does that mean historic sites on a national or state register, or does that mean a historic site as identified in the town plan?
To be determined.
Okay, it just seems like vagueness that if we're talking about this being at a PUC hearing, they're going to say, what does that mean? And it's just like a term that's not really defined. What we're interested in is the restriction itself. Towers are prohibited in any location that would have a visual impact on the historic district or sites.
Could I make another suggestion? Instead of the line D 323 that says restrictions on tower location, or freestanding towers, antennas over 35 feet are subject to the following restrictions in these specific areas, and then leave the rest of it the way it is. It's the fact that your first opening statement says they may not be located in the following areas, and then goes on to say, yes, but they can be, as long as they're subject to these restrictions. So right. Just change the introductory statement that they may be located in the following areas subject to the following restrictions.
Yes.
And that cleans everything up.
It does.
And that covers everything Ryan's talking about.
I agree that the language contradicts itself, and we say in those locations. Well, actually, it says the following areas, but these areas are not necessarily something that's defined. Like we say, scenic roads. Those have not been defined at this point.
But they may be in the future.
That was probably the most problematic. The whole town of Weathersfield is basically a residential area, and then we have a certain restriction under it that aren't even related to or inherently related to residential areas like archaeological sites. So I think this could just be broken down, and we could get rid of these titles like these are locations and just list those places where the towers are restricted, such as archaeological sites or designated wetlands. Why is designated wetland under residential area? It doesn't. I think we could break that out better. It's like we're referring to these areas as if they're explicit areas and they've never been defined.
All right, so then let's do that. And then just, you can list them as bullet points.
Yeah. Okay.
And change the introductory sentence as DeForest suggested.
Okay, sounds good. And then I have a few more comments on this.
Go ahead.
All right. So the 150-foot buffer to any property boundary. 1,500. Yeah, 1,500 feet. That equates to a 162 acre circle. In area. So I guess when we had been talking about that, I didn't realize that a tower couldn't go anywhere other than in the center of a property that is at least 162 acres. That seemed more restricted than I had sort of visualized, but as long as everyone on the board is on the same page, then we'll move right past that.
I feel like we got that 1,500 foot number from somewhere. Did we make that up?
No, that number is, well, part of that came from Annette, and then through looking at other wireless telecommunications acts or bylaws or town plans, that distance, it varies between 1,000 and 1,500 feet. And I think we talked about it months ago.
Yeah, we
But-
did, and I guess, and I'm not one really to advocate for more towers. It just seems like, are there any feasible locations for a new tower then? In town? I'm not sure. Either way, doesn't matter. We can move on past that one. But it seemed like it could be simplified with with keeping that distance from the. We could change the wording to any building on the property of another or something like that. But that's also covered.
Because the reason we didn't do that, Ryan, was because, so say, you have a tower, if it's 1,500 feet from the residence, they build a tower, and then 10 years later, I decide to build another, an accessory dwelling unit closer to the property line. All of a sudden, it's less than 1,500 feet from the tower on the adjoining property.
Yeah, which I think is fine. One was there first, but we already had that conversation, so we don't need to dig back into that. And then it says about 1,500 feet from right of ways, but a lot of times there's a right of way to the tower. Does that matter? New towers are going to have to own that much land and frontage anyway. They're not going to be able to cross another property, or at least they'll have to be 1,500 feet away from it. So, is that fine?
Again, I'm trying to remember the discussion that I had with Annette. I don't have my notes.
That if we're so overly restrictive, the PUC might say this doesn't make any sense, and we'll ignore it. But these are all conversations we've had. So, and so this is also included the canister antennas, which, from what I understand, are small things that could go on telephone poles and sides of buildings and things like that. But all the same restrictions apply to that. Like, can a canister antenna go within 150 or 1,500 feet of a perennial stream? Our things say no.
It does say no. I'd have to dig back through the notes, Ryan, to remember all the back and forth that we had and then the discussions that I had. I honestly don't remember.
All right, yeah. So just because DeForest had brought the section up, I just sort of went through it, and these things just sort of jumped out at me. But I'll restructure it, but without changing any of the content.
Does anybody else have any thoughts?
1,500 feet seems like a long ways.
Yeah.
Well, we started out with 3 times the height of the tower, I think, to the property line, if I remember correctly. And then the thing bounced to Annette, and then she came back with some distances.
Right.
I'm also seeing some discrepancy in the way we're writing out feet and then using apostrophe things.
Yes, that's correct too.
Yeah, that needs to be consistent.
It's a little hard to know where to go because mostly we got this from somebody else. And
Yeah,
I'm not an expert
yeah.
on this stuff.
So we went through this whole section and hashed all these things out, and so I think it's all fine to leave for now. But a lot of stuff sort of jumped out at me when I reframed it. I guess I'd never done the math to figure out how many acres is a 150-foot circular buffer, and that was sort of striking. Did I say no?
You keep saying 150 and it's a lot more than that.
Yeah. So anyway, the next time we meet, I'll bring back just a restructured one with the same numbers.
Is that good with everybody? Do we want to leave it as is now and try to get through the rest of this? Because I'm looking at also the time here too, not to let that be the driver, but.
Yeah, we still have time to change these sections.
If we want to have a discussion about this in particular, we should put that on the agenda next time and sort of be prepared to talk about it. I think this is sort of throwing it all just out of nowhere. Let's move on.
Yes, yes, let's move on. I don't think we put it on as a separate agenda item. I think you allow it to move forward, because I think what we're trying to do is get through this so we can get a hearing warrant.
And then we can worry about it.
We still have the ability throughout the hearing process to make changes.
And that'll also give me the time to dig back through my notes on this and revisit this and see
Yeah.
because I have the process, I have all the changes written down. Okay, then let's move on.
Don't forget, we've got two hearing processes to go through.
Yes.
One here and one at the select board.
I don't remember, I think at least at the select board level, we can't make changes that are, substantial. I don't remember if we can make substantial changes here.
Yep.
We can.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
So if
Well,
we're going to number that's substantial.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right. So before we have the hearing at the select board, at the planning commission, I'll try to dig through that and bring some more clarity to this. If there's no other comments, I'll move on to page 105, 106, line 354 through 367. And if there's no comments, the next is the map section. And I'm going to let Ryan, you want to kick that off and just explain to everybody where we are with this? And
Well, yeah, it's not quite the map section yet. There's just that one map.
Sorry.
This is in line with the plan.
Yeah, sorry, folks.
On this map, I took off the tower locations themselves, labeled the roads, and added a description about how this map came about.
And I think that was based on Hank's comment from the last meeting or the meeting before about how do we derive the map. Is that correct, Hank?
I did ask about that. I don't know.
Yes, Hank asked about that. I think he was hoping for more of a structured, systematic approach, but the approach was as it is written. So
As it is written.
Okay.
No, I like the description. I think that adds to the map.
Is everybody good with the description down through 374? If so, moving on to page 108, then we have chapter 11.
there's a lot of pages in here. Do you want to just ask if there's any comments on this section?
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Is this a statutory required section?
The inventory?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's the statute.
Well, okay, this was what was broken off of the natural scenic historic resources. So this chapter on its own isn't necessarily statute required by statute, but the content in it is part of it. The statute requires an inventory of the things that we talk about.
Should we identify that somehow?
We should, because it's mentioned in chapter 2, I believe, correct?
Right.
Yes.
The statute, I think that's a good point. We should put that in there. Because we're a long ways from chapter 2.
That kind of starting off blurb, even if it's that might help us next time we do this.
Yeah.
If any of us are here.
Okay, so
Maybe.
I'll take Ryan's suggestion and go through this entire chapter down through page line number 325. Does anybody have any questions on chapter 11?
I have 2 points, just to, again, grammatical. Number on line 81, it's 11.3B. Says the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources Tactical Basin Plan for Basin 10, which includes both the Millbrook and the Black River. Is that supposed to be a sentence, or is that supposed to be like italicized like the Connecticut River above? I wasn't sure what was happening with this paragraph.
We might just delete the word which.
Okay. And then also in that same neighborhood, the acronym TBP has been on line 90. It just got transposed.
1 second, I'm not caught up yet.
Also, yep, I just saw that.
Sorry, what line?
So my first question was line 81, 82.
Yeah, we got that.
Okay. And in line 90, I think TPB should be TBP.
Yes.
That's it for me.
I just wondered why there's like it says Connecticut River for A and Black River for C, and then B is talking about technical basin plans. That seems odd.
I didn't follow.
So 11.3 is waterways.
Yeah.
A is the Connecticut River. B is talking about technical basin planning.
And
And C is Black River. Is that?
yeah. Maybe I'll make that BA. This chapter in particular is kind of a structural mess, but something that I think is worth coming back to and not spending too much time on this round. But yeah, that's a good change.
Okay. So given that change, moving through the rest of it, there really haven't been any revisions. Does anybody have any comments on I'll do the same thing, go down to the end, and then DeForest, you had those couple comments. Does anybody have anything else through line 325 for chapter 11? Okay, then moving on to page 116, Appendix A, project by responsible party. I think we should go through this page by page just to be sure everybody's good. That's all right with everybody. Going down through line 36 on the first page of that, which is page 116. And then moving to 117 down through 54. And now we get into the meat of it here. 118, and this is Ryan, where you've laid out all the projects for the various commissions and organizations, correct?
Yes.
And we looked at this briefly last time, and I know on page 119, line 115 and 116, we did a little bit of editing in there to add some of to clean up that sentence, and they add safe streets for all again. That was a change from last time down through 140. And then on page 120, starting at 141 to 184 on line 177, I asked to have the dark sky compliant and the use of dark sky approved luminaries inserted in there. And we had that brief discussion about that. And then page 121, line 185 through 194 completes those, completes that section. Does anybody have any comments for that part? Should we move on to page 122?
Brian, did we go over your comment already?
Sorry.
Oh, that was page 124. I was looking at line 124. Sorry, you're still ahead.
Yeah, we got a couple pages to go here. 122, Conservation Commission. There's a bunch of things here. There's been no changes. 123, page 124, line 124, page 124. Unfortunately, I didn't put the line number down there. I was adding that whole thing about that we discussed a couple of chapters ago about, and DeForest had made that comment about affected landowners and the whole trail thing. We should probably use the same language here that we did back in the trail section.
Okay. Are you seeing which one it is?
You know, unfortunately, Ryan,
yeah. Okay.
Oh, it's line 29. Here we go. Line 293.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, same, just insert that same thing we all agreed to. Down through 316. Moving to 125, we're at the select board. There's been no changes through 360. 126, same thing, no changes. Page 127, there's been no changes to that section there. And if we move down to page 128, 129, 130, 131. Here's your chance, Ryan. Land use administrator. 132, 133, 134, and that completes that group there. Does anybody have any comments on Appendix A? There's no comments. I'm hearing no comments. Then I think next up is to move to the maps, Ryan.
Yeah, let me share that.
If you could share that, it would be terrific.
Share.
Can we find the maps on a different link here?
Yeah, so at the top you should see two tabs, and Howard,
On
at
the
very
agenda.
top of your screen above the packet. You don't need to scroll. Just like at the very top above it, there's two tabs there.
So the first one's going to be the current land use map number 1.
Yeah. And so here are the maps. We'll start with the current.
All right, show me that, Brian. Where are you at?
So we'll look at map 1 first.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, does everybody have that?
Yeah.
Any comments on this map? Hearing none, we'll move to.
I had a description on here, so and it was changed to 2026. So unfortunately, you're not even seeing. None of the map itself changed, but I did add a description talking about how it's a statutorily required map and blah blah blah, and change the date. So that's
All right, so we'll see that next time.
Yes.
Okay, then we'll move to map 2. And Brian, I'll let you do the introduction on this too, since you're more familiar or most familiar.
Okay. Okay, so this is the one. So we had this one sort of similar to our old current land use map, where the land use type is shown, and basically it's like the E911 map. They categorize each land use, and there's a point where the building is. So I had the regional commission put this one together. I guess if we want to keep it, we should have a description about what it is. Let's see if I've had other comments about that. Utilities currently use map. I guess so. I need to go over my notes, but my comment about this one was that we should abandon this map. Because there are too many inaccuracies to fix. So there's recreational. So recreation is the green square, and it shows things on private property and things that don't exist. And for example, Grout Road, there are 2 recreational things. I don't know of any public recreation that's available over there. We have the town forest, but it's at a point that's like It's actually off the town forest property, so I don't know what that's supposed to be referring to. There's a bunch of them. I went through it for a while. There's civic buildings that are not right, agricultural uses that are not right, and ones that are missing. I don't know. It just seemed like, what I like about it is it sort of shows the distribution of buildings, and how much of it is residential, but there's maybe that's the only useful part of it. And then there's another category that's like what falls into that category. There's no description about what that means.
My experience with E911 data is that you hit the nail on the head, that it's really useful for a lot of things, and this probably isn't a very good use of it.
Yeah. My other comment, well, there are too many questions as to the type of use of, like commercial and industrial. There was examples, but things that were, to me, shouldn't have been categorized that way when I was looking over it. And then other, obviously, which we just said.
Some of it's in the definition also. Some of it's in the definitions. Yeah, E911 data is useful for some things, but I don't think this is one of them.
So I guess my thought was, if we wanted to use it in like within the housing chapter, then we can show it only the residential uses, and then it could be in line in the text, and you can sort of see that distribution. But as far as the current land use map goes, I don't think it really does. I don't think it really helps. And we already have the other current land use map, which I think does what we're wanting it to do.
So Ryan, I wrote down in my notes, why is this in here? I found it very confusing. And
well, because when we brought up the old maps, we liked how this was different from the other one. But yeah, we gave it a try, and I don't think it works. I think if we want to use it for housing, I think that's one thing that we could do. But beyond that, I don't think we need it.
I think that's the only place it would make sense.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the only purpose, just to show where the current development is.
Yeah.
Well, development or housing,
Right.
because you would take commercial out, right? If you were gonna put it in housing.
Right. So just because.
So it would get a little less blotchy, but
The
maybe not much.
one of the things that I would, and the raw data as it is would show a good distribution of housing, even if it's imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would be. Oftentimes there's multiple E911 points on a parcel,
Mm-hmm.
for example, and sometimes that's more than one residence. And I wonder if in some cases a point is chosen for a parcel. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. So we could abandon it altogether, or we could readapt it for the housing chapter if you wanted to. Up to you.
I mean, my thought is to clean it up and stick it in the housing chapter. But
That's a start. We may not even want it over there. We'll see when we get there.
If you could take the commercial uses out of there, just print the houses, and that might fit in the.
Are you doing the data development on this, or is Mark?
Mark.
Whatever's fine with me. That's fine. If we want to see a picture of it, I mean, yeah. Whatever's fine with me, I don't.
It's almost something we get
Matt,
later.
when he says Mark, he's not talking about a person. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to make sure you're.
I'm not asleep. I might look at.
No, they just changed a year ago from. What they, yeah.
So they're
All right, move on to the next one.
Yep.
All right, future land use map. Okay, got 2026 on this one and a description. Good.
Oh, everybody's trying to load it at the same time.
So what's changed, Ryan, since the last time we've seen this?
I don't think anything's changed on the map. Maybe I forget if you've already seen. I sort of highlighted deeded development restrictions item to make it more obvious that it's not just another green blob that's hard to distinguish. So I put X's on it, and I changed the wording from. It was like conserved land or conservation easement land or something that's sort of hard to understand what that meant. So it's explicitly stated deeded development restrictions to show that those parcels have that. As with any data, it's not the most up to date, but it is as up to date as what's available. And I did add a couple of properties that I knew about, like the Walsh's property on Camp Hill. And maybe another one. But so that at least shows where conservation easements have sort of started to form and clustered, like the bow is very heavily conserved. So it gives you a little bit of a visual. I don't think much else has changed there.
Anybody have any questions about the future land use map? And I see a question in the audience.
Matt Kenniston from Perkinsville. First off, I'd like to acknowledge my sense of the amount of work that you people are putting into this. Acknowledge you for doing that. So hugely important to the town. Secondly, I want to apologize for not reading assiduously all the notes for the past, year that you've been going through all this stuff. But so if you do appear to be a little bit ignorant about some of the things that you've probably discussed ad nauseum. One of those things is in Perkinsville, there's a rather large tract of land, perhaps 200 acres, more or less, that's marked as future high density development, 1 acre. And I wonder if someone here would be willing to address that and all the inherent concerns that would come up with something of that density. Not that I'm against development where it's needed. I did look at the stats and the report that you put out about the need perhaps in the next 10 years for an additional 200 or so housing units in the town. But I'm just curious about that location and as you mentioned earlier, the infrastructure requirements for such a development of that nature. And I know it's all contingent on whether property owners are actually willing to sell off and develop parcels at that dimension. But that's partly what I'm looking at there and seeing that's a substantial change from what I've known as the previous, districting in the area of Perkinsville.
So I suppose the whole perspective of the village of Perkinsville is bigger than what it has been in the past. And part of that is Perkinsville, well, it's really, the village of it is really small, and any expansion of, well, density or the uses, if the use needs to expand, they need to account for the wastewater and all that kind of stuff. And I guess let me back up. In looking at where development should be allowed and where it should be restricted, it seemed like the closer to the village centers is more suitable for development. And so when we put in all the different layers about rare threatened endangered species, wetlands, steep slopes, prime ag soils, and basically all the things that we're trying to consider, where do we want to make sure development doesn't happen or doesn't cause harm to other things like habitat connectors and things like that. That area was one of the few places where it seemed like higher density development would be suitable. And so Weathersfield has never been a town to go out and actively try and create housing necessarily. It was more of a matter of, is this the right place to have a 10-acre minimum lot size, or does it make sense to shrink that minimum lot size? Understanding there's lots of factors that go into how much housing can actually go on a particular thing. So we thought that there was probably development restrictions like the utilities that don't exist that would prevent a huge development from going in, but rather allow the landowners in suitable sites to have the ability to have 1 acre lots. If there's a 20 acre lot in that location, is there really a reason that splitting off an acre is harmful to the goals of the town? And so I think that's sort of the basis of that location. It's not that we want to see 1 acre lots throughout that area. It's that it seemed harder to justify requiring larger lot sizes. Does that make sense?
In a way. But doesn't that leave open the opportunity for a 20 acre parcel to be divided into 1 acre lots?
It does, yes.
And with that, I mean, we talk about Perkinsville, we don't have wastewater treatment facility in Perkinsville. We are desperately need one if we're going to, if the village is going to grow and become a compact. And so this is the kind of question that comes up is, you know, if that leaves open the potential for that kind of development. As I look at those parcels, most of them are significant. They're not 2 acre lots. That 1 acre would be great. You take that one piece that's next to the road and have another back lot that's 1 acre, and that closes out the possibility for that particular parcel. But that's not what I see from looking at this. So
Right.
That's my question. In putting that there, is the town, is the commission opening up the possibility that that if it was done haphazardly, without the coordination of infrastructure, would it turn into a problem, a big problem for the town? And, you know, I mean, I look at an acre size, it's, you know, basically a little over 200 by 200 feet. You can't even get a septic system and a well onto it with the setbacks required by the state from a water well to a sewage system, you know, disposal system. So I'm just wondering about those kinds of things, the wisdom of that and whether, and what it would take to make it work, and if that's part of the plan.
Yeah, so you said, would it be possible for a 20 acre lot to do 20 lots? And it would, basically the zoning would, assuming that this changes anything with the zoning map, and that's another discussion. But if that were the case, then a 20 lot subdivision would have to account for all that kind of stuff. And through the zone and through the subdivision regulations, would be more coordinated if it was a 20 acre lot doing that all at once. But it sounds like it's your concern if the 20 acre lot does 1 acre at a time instead of all 20 together.
Well, there's any number of scenarios. I'm really only asking here whether the siting of that has been reviewed, considering the impact that it could have if it were done piecemeal, without a plan, without road infrastructure. I mean, your access is off Maple Street and Route 106. If parcel owners allow the land, the road, their access goes through there. But if they don't, then it's all being run up the hill off Maple Street, piece by piece. And, you know, so I'm just asking questions that would be the kind of questions somebody 20 years, 30 years from now would ask. Well, why didn't they think of this? Because are we getting the cart before the horse? Is the horse going to drive the cart here? Is the idea that there's the potential for more development in that particular area of Perkinsville going to drive us to take the steps to get the funding to put in a wastewater treatment facility, and where? I know a letter went out a year ago, or maybe it was longer, asking property owners if they were interested in having their property reviewed. I received one. My land is quite steep and quite wet. You can see it on your own map there. Was there any solution in the offing? I'm just wondering here if the commission is getting ahead of itself on this particular thing.
I think a lot of this comes from the state and regional plan. The state likes to see all new development put in existing villages for, lack of a better term, because they want to conserve infrastructure and everything else. I figure if you already have fairly densely populated area, that's where you want to expand. You don't want to start putting lots out in the hinterlands that requires another 20 miles of roads to service them, etc. And I mean, since the 70s, when people were getting kind of paranoid about the major development happening in Weathersfield, since the 70s, that really hasn't happened.
Well, perhaps you're misunderstanding me a little bit there. I'm not against the development. I know it's necessary, and I would like to see Perkinsville be a developed compact. I think I'm much more interested in seeing open land preserved than worrying about a development of a compact like Perkinsville. So hopefully that's clear.
Yeah, so I think you're wondering about whether this is the right first step. And I think it is, because it's not a regulatory change like if we were changing the zoning map. And this sort of opens the door for a conversation to say, when we're envisioning the future of this area, we're trying to envision wastewater and development working somehow. So we have looked at it. Is it like from the steep slopes, wetlands, access, that kind of thing? But it would need to be a coordinated effort on a lot of fronts. So I don't necessarily see it being an easy or even necessarily a highly likely scenario, as much as when we look at the zoning bylaws as layers of restrictions, are we restricting the landowners in this location in the right way, or is it being over restricted? But so by doing this, then we can have this conversation about what the people in the village want to see, without having already said, we've already changed the zoning regulations. They can go ahead and do this even if it's not. So yeah, I think this is sort of the step where we say, this is what we talked about, and then down the road, this along with the other things in the town plan, we can say, we've been talking about this, trying to figure out wastewater the situation. We might develop relationships for access and things like that. I don't think Weathersfield is really the town to purchase land and build housing.
No, but are you also implying that some entity in the town plans on having this conversation with the village of Perkinsville so that there's some buy-in?
Yeah,
because right now I'm not hearing the buy-in. I don't think there's the information's not there. I wasn't completely startled to see that because I know that it's something that's ultimately probably necessary, but at the same time, it's in a vacuum. If
right.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, I think because there's no plan, right? And we have throughout the town plan talked about acquiring funding to get those wastewater plans and sort of envision what's possible here and what's not. So to me, it seems like this would be the starting point, because if the future land use map showed that as rural or conservation land or something like that, then it'd be a non-starter. And high density high density is a relative term. 1 acre development would just be flat out against the town plan if it was shown as more rural.
Ryan, can I jump in here, Ryan, too?
Please.
So Matt, you bring up some interesting points that, through the town plan here that we've been working on for over a year, we've talked about a lot about wastewater and providing potable water. And Ryan, can you put up the map of the decentralized septic systems? I don't know, Matt, if you're familiar with that, but I'm going to ask Ryan to put up the map that we've added to the wastewater section, because we all have that same concern about, if we have growth, how do we secure the necessary infrastructure? And so this is something that's new to the town plan this year, where we talk about doing decentralized septic systems as one approach instead of a wastewater treatment system. I'm sure you're familiar with those, But if you're not, it's where, 4 or 5 homeowners get together, possibly on a new development, or a group of neighbors get together and they find a piece of land that you can decentralize the septic or centralize the septic for a group of homes. So the cart before the horse, I think we're just beginning that discussion. I think we have a long ways to go. And our goal now is to kind of set some of the basic parameters in the town plan. But as Howard pointed out, some of this is coming down from the state and saying your town plan or your maps must show these higher denser areas in your town plan to comply with the regulations.
Is that true that we have to have high density? That's like a new area for development or something? I can't quite remember. I assume we chose that as high density because we're trying to envision a Perkinsville that is bigger than it is now, rather than our 200 supposed places spread out across the town. The 200 did definitely come from.
I think you made it clear that it was coming
Great.
from higher up.
Yeah.
Yes.
I assume the high density is because of where we were, because we're next to Perkinsville.
Right, yeah, no, the state's not requiring that we expand our villages or that we allow for a certain density. Because we don't have a town sewer and water, there's no mandate for density or anything.
So the density that we've drawn in here could be like, to the southwest, we put in some purple, which is medium density.
Right.
And I don't think that I don't know that, I think we chose high density because it's near Perkinsville, not because we're sure that it should be.
Matt is right in what he started off by saying. At a 1 acre lot, you don't have, it's 209 by 209, I think is an acre. You don't have the clearance from a well to a septic system. So in your subdivision regulations, you're not going to be able to do a 1 acre lot anyway. Basically, so you're not going to chop 20 acres into.
Not when I was planning.
It's not going to happen. You're not going to get there.
And
I think that the town was their state. I mean, was their statement was, for lack of a better way, kind of broad, because what they've said is they want to focus a density on villages and towns and things like that. But then they had to back up afterwards when they realized, like a village like Perkinsville that does not have water and wastewater, and we're already 1 acre there, and you can't do anything. We'll be lucky to save some of the places in that town when things start to go bad. So I think there's a combination of things, but I think Ryan's right. This probably came from Mark. This didn't come from us.
this map here.
Well, this one little section that's called out for this development.
No, that was us. That wasn't Mark.
You did this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's right, because you put it there, and you've got other areas in the town plan that are calling out for the grants, the loans, funding to move forward with water, wastewater projects, which are much needed on that side of town. If you can't steer the grant agency toward your goals, how are you going to get there? So you kind of have to have something. What's going to happen there could be nothing. It could be nothing at all. But at least it's there to we can say, okay, well, this is what we're looking at as a future possibility, but we've got to have this to get there, and then perhaps we have access to the grant funding takes care of the village.
The one thing this map doesn't show that another map down the way does is that pink area is relatively large lots. Much of that pink area is larger lots, and I think that I don't want to put words in your mouth, Matt, but a concern that I would have is that turning large lots into small lots isn't what we're trying to do. And I think, not that we've had good luck with PUDs yet, but I think we're all interested in better PUD language that encourages, if some of those lots if zoning was changed to make high density development there possible, that we would also be bringing to the table wise PUD language that would take that large lot and put all the houses in over here rather than, you know. So I mean, so I think whether or not it's right, I think this idea of high density is part of a bigger, you know, a multi-pronged.
Yeah, well, I think that's it's all valuable. There are many ways that this could pan out. There are many different possibilities. I bet them all, you know, heard not all of them, but there are probably more than I ever did. And the point that perhaps I'm making, overriding point I'm making is, don't let it fall flat because it doesn't have a long range, you know, looking back 20 years, we did the right thing kind of look to it. So that there's buy-in in the community of Perkinsville that what we're doing here is going to be good for the village and not just a piecemeal operation that ends up being detrimental to the village.
I think a good analogy for that, at least in my mind, might be the airport. I've always felt that the residential should have been restricted 20, 30, 40 years ago down along airport, runway road, what we call runway, all that. There shouldn't be houses down there. There should be all business down there. It's a natural noise zone. Why you put houses down there? Now they don't want anything to go on at the airport. It's kind of, yeah. I understand your point.
I mean, I think that everybody in the village does buy into wanting to have a centralized commercial, low-key commercial entity like the store used to be and the post office and those kinds of things, something that brings the village, a center to the village. They have the schoolhouse now. They've got things that they can pull on their assets there, but in order to do that, there's a much greater plan that needs to be brought into view. Because you can't, even the store, my understanding is even the old store can't open up without finding some way to get rid of the sewage, to get rid of the wastewater, because the system is, I assume, has failed, and that's the reason, or it's no longer meets the standard thing. We diverge. You have much greater things to work on. I just wanted to bring up that one particular instance here where I think what we might be missing is getting a plan, getting the buy-in from the village, so that people aren't just, somebody says, oh, it's great, I love it, I want to drop 20 acres, and somebody else says, well, I don't, I like my land in one piece, and I'm not gonna cooperate, or whatever it happens to be, or I can't see any future in this. So I think it's sort of important to address that.
This area basically is 106 Maple Street, Drumlin Road, Bean Hill.
Yeah, and over to Lions Drive, what I see from the map, and down Lions Drive.
Down Lions Drive?
Well, that's what it looks like. John Jensen Road, Lions Drive.
So I didn't, did it cross? I didn't see, I guess I didn't think it crossed.
Well, there's a fair amount of development down Lions Road, Lions Drive beginning.
Oh, yeah, it does cross. Yeah, it does.
So that would take whatever those were,
But
3 acre lots, and allow them to go.
But the bigger part is in that section that I was talking about.
Yeah, the hillside.
Yeah.
When we're just on.
I think your important point is the buy-in point, which, as you can see, based on who's here, is a problem. But that's been a problem for
Well, I know.
I haven't been here as long as Mike, but
I know it's still being anyone else.
you know, we did have that one meeting one time, but
The other point too is that the fact that it's zoned for 1 acre lots, if you own 20 acres and you don't want to develop as 1 acre lots, you don't develop it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is nothing the town can force. It's giving somebody the opportunity to come in and apply for that, but it is in no way mandating it
Understood.
as a development package.
I know the town zoning does not require somebody to break up their land, of course, unless the property value accelerates to the point where they can no longer hold on to it because the appraised value of 1 acre lots is greater than a 10.
And there is the rewriting of PUD language that would help to conserve the larger portion of the land and still allow the equal development in a tighter, denser area, which is
That was my big question. Thank
We
you.
made you sit here the whole time, line, page by page by page.
Well, I could take a look at the map and see that's some interesting roads connecting, where they aren't connecting now, but, that's, for someone else to.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Well, thanks, Matt, for coming to the meeting and helping us understand some of the concerns. I know this is just the beginning, and we'll hopefully work in the right direction here.
Probably not the time to have that question to.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and so if there's not any other comments on this map here, I'm looking at the time tonight. I'd like to get through all the maps if everyone's willing to
I just
stay a
have
little
a
longer.
question. If you could go back, I'm sorry. The red line outlining the village areas, how did you derive those?
So generally the idea is that it's within walking distance of the village center. It's also relatively flat and developable, where businesses and residences have already sort of developed, like in Ascutney goes, it includes Lawrence Farm Road, which is in walking distance to the gas stations, convenience stores, and things like that. There's already a high development. And then out to the north end, there's the mobile home park and other commercial businesses, all within walkable distance to the village center. And then in Perkinsville, same sort of idea. One could foresee walking from the end of Maple Street into the center of Perkinsville. Same with those other locations, as long as there was a safe way to walk there. But that was sort of the general idea. We avoided the steep slopes and avoided sort of where development hasn't already sort of occurred.
So when you say walkable, you're including walking on 131?
Well, that's why I said that little preface, as long as there's a safe way to get there. So throughout the town plan, this is all sort of visioning for the future. Throughout the town plan, we talk about safe ways to get around, whether that's an establishment of a trail network or potentially sidewalks, dare I say that out loud. But that's all sort of technically it is within a walkable distance.
So did these lines coincide with property boundaries or?
To some extent, it does bisect some properties, but they do follow property lines, yeah.
But it was something that you derived. It's not.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on this map? If not, we'll move on to the land use planning map. That is, if everybody's willing to stay just a bit longer to get through this tonight. No objections to that?
Nobody threw anything at the screen, so you're safe.
So the land use planning map is an unofficial map, as it says in the new description. It's basically a combination of all the features on the future land use map that were sort of lumped. So you can see in the developed land category, we just had a single color for developed land. This shows sort of the different types, and it has other things like forest habitat connectors, so it connects the forest blocks that have been identified. So it's very busy and kind of complicated, and it takes a little bit of time to look at. It's more intended for the commission or other boards that are doing active planning for the town, and less of a information to the public type of map. So we kind of took this and reduced it into what became the future land use map, but I wanted to include sort of this iteration because it does show a lot more detail and information. So that's why it will remain there, but it is labeled as unofficial.
I like this one better for the housing. I mean, you could take a few layers out, but at least the housing isn't all like a bunch of dots on top of each other.
Oh, you mean compared to that?
Yeah. That one that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Because this one shows the structures, right?
It does, yeah.
But it's much clearer than that other one was.
Yep.
And you can zoom in on it too and really see.
Yeah. I verified that already too. And like I said, you could actually take this and take a few layers out and make your housing map from this.
Right.
It would be better than that other than.
One of the things that we had talked about at one point when Mark had a different GIS person was we could have an online map that shows all these layers that people can click on and click off and play around with it.
Yeah.
So that's something that I still think is worth doing, but it's
Absolutely
beyond my expertise and that person's left. So I exited out of it. Does anyone else have questions on it?
Nope.
All right.
Any other questions on the future map? Next one, Ryan.
This is another one from the regional commission. It shows ag soils, steep slopes, and something else. High elevations over 1,500 feet. So in our bylaws, elevations over 1,500 feet and slopes greater than 25% prohibit development. So those, I thought this map was useful for that. And it also shows the ag soils of both types. So it's not statutorily required, but we had one in the 2017 town plan, so I just had them update it, and this is what they provided.
Yeah, I've always liked this map, so I think it's just an easy, quick reference to a lot of information.
Yeah. Okay.
If there's no questions, move on to the transportation map.
My question on that one is, why are there roads that aren't named? We're only naming the main roads or
On the
I mean, on the
yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, the first thing that I looked at this earlier, Quarry Road and Maple Street aren't listed on here, Drumlin's not listed.
Yep.
You know, there's a bunch of roads that are here that are just, there's no names on them. It's just, it looks like just like the main thoroughfares and crossovers and pass throughs. Yeah, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's not named on this map. Is that intended?
No, I don't think it is intended. I don't have a explanation. I will ask.
Okay.
Again, this is a regional commission. I didn't catch that. I did have an apparently, I don't know. Oh, okay. So you see at the northeast corner, the top right, there's arrows with words that say to Windsor Amtrak and to Claremont Amtrak.
Yeah.
I just added those on the PDF because I wanted a reference to that. The statute talks about railroad access, basically all the different types of transportation. And despite them not being in town, I thought it was useful to have those. So I asked him to add those to the map if everyone's good with that. Something similar to how I have it depicted, but probably, hopefully, cleaner.
Yeah, you did pretty well.
And then we also added the mover pickup site and their sort of range. I also asked him to add the vast trails. Does that make sense to everyone? Transportation, snowmobiling.
That's more recreation, isn't it? I mean, it's the transportation. I think of, you know, the roads, highways.
People will go visit different locations on their snowmobile, friends' houses or businesses.
Yeah, I still think it's recreation though.
Okay. In recreation and transportation should be separated.
Do we have that? Do we have a
Yeah.
trails recreation map?
Well, we have the class 4 roads on here.
But
And you have the legal trails too, Ryan.
Their town, they're, I think, I can't think that's different.
I'm not going to argue against it necessarily. I'm just.
You have the Camp Hill Trail on there.
I think transportation in my opinion can be for recreation. If I want to go to the store and grab a sandwich in my car or on my snowmobile, it's the same thing. And if I want to go visit a particular site, I still need to take a road if I want to get to my hiking destination or whatever. You could take a snowmobile, you could ride your bike, or you could do whatever. It's all transportation. In my opinion.
Yeah, put it on there, why not? You like
It's
it?
all corridors where people can move around.
I'm not opposed to
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I also made note about the symbology. I don't really love it, but oh well.
Your maps are really nice, Ryan.
Unless everyone else
Compared to
wants it changed, we can just leave it as it is. It's similar to how the last map was with squares for culverts. Good with it?
We good?
Okay. Maybe I'll have to change to dots. Dots are more like culverts.
Good night.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, man.
All right, good.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, good. Utilities, facilities. Another regional commission map, just an update from what we had before. It shows various utilities and facilities. Fire stations, dry hydrants, communications facilities, which I thought was interesting. It shows different antennas and stuff that are more than just the towers. This has the vast trails on it.
Do you need it? Do you need the vast trails on the highway map then?
Yeah, well, we have the roads on all the different maps. I sort of feel like they work. We talk about recreation in the utilities and facilities section too.
Okay.
I just worry about making maps hard to read with too much information on
Messy.
Does this have too much information?
I mean, it's fine. This one's fine.
I wonder who's going to look at this.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's here, but who, unless you're a real map geek, why are you looking at this? I guess maybe you want to know where the nearest dry hydrant is. That's a useful information.
Right, because it's really just for planning. If we were planning for new facilities and things like that, like if we're talking about planning the downtown of Perkinsville, we were going to look and see what kind of utilities and facilities are there.
Right.
So you wouldn't be looking at this map to do it. I mean,
That's absolutely true. It's only statutorily required.
Yes, we're in a
not utilitarian.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I don't know. I don't see my note on it, but I thought I had asked to. Maybe it's a different one. Yeah. No. Oh yeah. So there's look in the bow. There's a bunch of properties shown as town of Weathersfield owned properties that are not owned by the town of Weathersfield. So I don't know where I'm not seeing my comments on that. Oh no, that's not it either. Oh, here's Center Church Town Building. It's shown as a town building. That's not right. Community facilities.
It's missing a lot of the conserved land too.
Right. And that doesn't necessarily need to be on the utilities and facilities map.
Utilities and resources map, you mean?
Is that what it says?
If we were looking
Yes.
at it.
Yeah, it does say that.
Okay. Wait, hold on. So yeah. Okay.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Mike's getting tired.
Yeah,
I think everybody
does.
We're almost there though.
Okay, move on.
Move on.
Natural resources map. This one is also not statutorily required, and I wondered if we should just get rid of it. It shows the deer wintering areas, which is of limited value. It shows priority and highest priority habitat blocks, and this is all from the state's conservation design that we looked at. Which is, a statewide program that I think works on a statewide or regional scale. But when you start looking at the town, I think our map of forest blocks and connections does a much better job of accurately depicting what's there. This is just sort of
What are the little cutouts?
I think there's like a 2 acre circle cut out
Around
around
every
all the
building.
buildings.
You've got really nice maps, Ryan.
Thank you.
Nice job.
So
I wonder,
you can just
I wonder
abandon this.
why do we need this?
Yes, agreed. Okay, abandoned. Ridgelines map. Okay, so this is the same as the one that's in the utilities, utilities facilities section, but whatever section
Right.
it's in. No, this is in the PUC section. That's what that is.
Ryan, should you have the same qualifier on here about where the data came from to follow up on Hank's point? Should we add that same sentence to the bottom of this map since we have it that way in that plan?
Yes, it is on there. I don't know if you're seeing the
Whoops.
whole screen, but
Yeah,
yeah,
sorry, I wasn't. Sorry.
the same thing.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
Yep.
Okay. Historic scenic resources. This was our old map. I have yet to get. I might have actually not asked Mark to update this one because we hadn't determined what was going to happen with the scenic resources and stuff yet. But I wanted to throw it in there just to show what is existing. At the very least, I could just change the date on it.
Yeah, because we're not changing that. We're not changing anything with that right now.
Right.
Nope.
So, yeah.
I
So
can't remember if there's a statutory requirement for this one. I feel like not, in which case it could just go away. But because there are those scenic resources where it's, even though it's not well done, it is sort of our only reference for some of those points.
For right now, yeah.
Yeah, so it might be worth the date and keeping
I would
it.
leave it in the packet. Yeah, I think it's important to have for precisely that reason.
Okay, and then the last one here, highway mileage. We don't need to look at that. That was just in the transportation section. Ray had included a reference to this and said it was an appendix, so I figured I would add it.
Excellent. So any comments here as we come to the close of the map review? If there's none, so let's just briefly, Ryan, I guess you're going to make a couple of edits to the draft, and we're going to run through that one more time and try to get close to a final copy for the next meeting. Is that the goal here tonight, or for the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, we're not ready to warn a hearing. We don't have all the maps and everything sort of finalized. So I'll combine everything into a single document, like it's finalized and compiled. I'll try and do page numbers and a table of contents and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion right there? Tonight we made edits, and you've got everything written down, what it is and where it is exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only things, those are the only pages and points we look at the next meeting. We don't go through like we did tonight, the entire document again. And that would be completely redundant and unnecessary. We know what we changed tonight, we know where it is, verify that it's in there correctly, and get it done.
How about this? What if I'll do all those edits in the track changes like I've been doing, and then I'll just take a screenshot of those sections and I'll put all those screenshots in one document so you see all the changes on like 1 or 2 pages, and then the town plan that's included will be a clean copy.
Love it. That'd be great.
Yep. And that'll be our goal for the next meeting then.
Yeah, that way we're only going through like 1 or 2 pages rather than, how many? 1,500?
No, 144.
If people show up with questions, that's fine, but we're not gonna go through the whole thing
Right.
ourselves.
Through those 7 times now.
I mean,
I actually would say that this next review is a review of a final draft. And I mean, unless somebody's got something pointed that they would like us to look at, I think we move to the hearing phase. And changes can still be made through that phase.
Yeah. I just feels like we get about one person a meeting over the last few weeks who has, something interesting to say. I mean, I feel like it was pretty useful to get, I mean, that's the question we're gonna get is like, why is this area the high density area? I don't know.
Yeah.
I felt like that was pretty useful to talk through. I don't know.
Yeah, but
Anyway.
we should need to be open to the fact that people are gonna come up. Now is when people are gonna be starting to come out.
I mean, if
we
we wanna-
worked on it, but
And,
that's the way it is.
we're gonna listen, but we also gotta finish our job.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't wanna go through page by page again.
No.
Okay, so we have a move forward action for the next meeting for the draft town plan finalization. Any other discussion on agenda item number 6? Hearing none, we'll move to 7. Discussion of items for future agendas. Well, I think that's pretty clear what we're going to be discussing at future agenda is going to be the draft of the town plan, unless there's something someone wants to add. Hearing nothing. Item number 8, is there any other business that can be legally discussed this evening? Hearing none. I guess we're down to item number 9.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Thank you all.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks, everyone. Good meeting. Long meeting, but a good meeting.
Well, yeah, but it was necessary.
Yep. Thank you.
And now it's over.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
You, Ryan, you did a lot of work.